But before I start, I want to thank Spela for inviting and the great support I get here. So, just a little bit about my own background. I studied computational visualistics in Koblenz and in Adelaide. I was involved in a lot of research with augmented reality and tracking technologies and 3D computer graphics and stuff like that. And during my studies, I started actually to get more into art. So I have sort of a similar background to this guy. I don't know, I forgot the name. But then I started working for the ZKM, and within the last 2 years, we started to develop some apps because, yeah, okay. So to introduce the ZKM, one could say the ZKM is quite unique in the world as an institution that not only exhibits contemporary art and media art, but also responds to the rapid developments of information technologies and changes in social structure by own productions and research. And here you see photos of the ZKM. This is actually in an old munition factory from the First and the Second World War. So they built weapons inside this building, and now the artists took over the place. It's pretty big. The ZKM includes 2 museums, the Museum of Media Art and the Museum of Contemporary Art. And it also includes a quite large media library and, of course, a museum shop. And besides that, the ZKM has 3 major institutions, namely the Institute for Visual Media, the Institute for Music and Acoustics, and the Institute for Media Education and Economics. And besides that, the ZKM holds an archive of media art with support by its laboratory for antique video systems. And now to make things even bigger, the ZKM has a large publication program, its own technical service department for museum communications such as workshops and training programs, an event department, and of course public relations. And the idea for a Center for Electronic Art and Culture was already being considered in Karlsruhe in the mid-80s. And the vision was to create a Bauhaus for the electronic age, so a digital Bauhaus. And as the Bauhaus, the ZKM considered technical developments under the aspect of their effect on society. And in 1989, the ZKM was launched as a foundation under public law in Karlsruhe, and is since one of the leading institutions for media art worldwide. So I think it's a bit bigger than the, but not so well known as the Ars Electronica Center in Linz. This is the program of activity at the ZKM. So there are basically 3 fields. We have the field of research and production, which is the field of our own research departments with its artists and residency programs, including renowned international artists, scientists, and scholars. And we have the field of exhibition and events, which take place in the museums and concert halls, and the field of archives and documentation of media art in special and contemporary art in general. So just a few numbers to see. So there are quite many visitors each year. There are many, many exhibitions, I think too many actually. We have more than 17 conferences per year. 550 artists in residence stay there. It's quite huge numbers, so it's quite superlative, one could say. The head of the ZKM is Peter Weibel, and I got to work together with Peter Weibel. He was before involved with the Ars Electronica Center, I think. Pretty well-known media artist. And I tend to work with Peter Weibel quite a lot. So I brought a couple of pictures from the ZKM just to give you an impression. To the left you see one of the 5 halls we have in the building. It's a huge building. Yeah, and they are used for exhibition space. So this is from the light art exhibition. To the right, you see a work by Robot Lab. Robot Lab actually works at the ZKM, and they use industrial robots to create installations. This one is actually an industrial robot that writes the Bible in beautiful letters, and it has a small pen with ink, beautiful handwritten, one could say, or written by a robot, the Bible. Really nice work. This one shows a bit so the ZKM is really interested in interactive works. With interactive media art, that means basically, obviously, that the user or the observer is involved in the art, which probably tends to keep its, so the observer actually tends to stay a little bit longer in front of a picture than, or the art than in a regular museum. To the left is a shadow interaction, shadow interaction work where you can play with bubbles with your own shadow. And to the right, you see a work where you have to place your elbows on certain spots of those chairs, and through your own body resonance, you can hear music and spoken words. So the user is always involved, or very often involved. This is from an exhibition that's being shown right now. It's a sound art exhibition. These pictures to the left is really nice. In front of the ZKM, we have this temple made out of, I don't know, more than 1,000 loudspeakers or whatever. And you can actually call the number. Actually, you should try that and call the number, and you'll talk to Karlsruhe, which is quite nice. Better not call now. Okay, but yeah, me and my friends, we actually played a concert or played one song through the telephone, and it's pretty loud in front of the ZKM. It's nice. So this is an image of the Museum of Contemporary Art, which is the other big museum besides the Museum of Media Art, shows contemporary art. To the right, you see one video still from the exhibition The Global Contemporary, which actually showed the influence of globalization to the art scene since 1989. And now the next two slides will show some of the research that we do at the ZKM. The Institute for Visual Media has this panorama screen, and it's open for visitors or open for residency artists to use that screen. They build their own 360-degree camera to create videos, especially for that screen. This is the big research that we did at the Institute for Music and Acoustics. It's a sound dome. It's made out of 43 loudspeakers, and they are set up in a dome kind of setup, so you can actually place sound channels, or you can create your compositions in a three-dimensional space. We created our own software actually to. We created our own software to be able to use this loudspeaker system. A lot of composers come to the ZKM to be able to spatialize, which is the panning in 3D, their compositions. I brought a video to show you the software that I partly developed as well. So basically to the right there's the software, to the left is just some visuals that, from the screen recording. this is the dome in the software, looking from the top now. I move with the mouse and can get a three-dimensional look at the sound dome. You see sound sources in a hexagonal space, so you can actually rotate and position different sound channels and move them around the audience. And you actually just get the feel of it if you sit in the sound dome, obviously. Right now it's not three-dimensional. So just to give you a little impression of the software. Sorry. So. And now I brought another video to show you a work I was involved with, just to show you some of the concerts, performances that we do. This is, let me see where I am in the text. So this is Chroma Lux, actually a screen by the artist Trbovlje, and this was hooked up in the entrance hall of the ZKM. It's a pretty large screen, 27 meters wide, more than 9 meters high. It's lit by 3,150 LEDs, which are located behind structured plexiglass. And the plexiglass is actually around 1 meter in front of the LEDs, and since the glass has striped texture, the light coming from the LEDs breaks into those magical bows, which gives this fantastic effect, sort of. So for a first installation on Chroma Lux, the artist Trbovlje adopted the initial idea of Peter Weibel to make an audiovisual composition based on Game of Life. And Ludger Brümmer was the composer of the music, and we actually installed a sound dome with 25 loudspeakers in the entrance hall of the ZKM, so it's an audiovisual work, fully based on Game of Life. Game of Life is a computer algorithm, or is, one could say, a cellular automata, which was introduced by John Conway, a mathematician in the 70s. It's made up out of a two-dimensional space, and a cell can have 2 states, dead or alive, and has 8 neighbors in a so-called Moore neighborhood. And a cell dies if it has less than 3 neighbors or more than 4 neighbors, the cell keeps its state. If it has an equal of 4 neighbors, the cell is alive. It has an equal of 3 neighbors. Anyway, this is a generative algorithm, and it was quite interesting to work on this to see how to adapt a generative algorithm to art, and how to actually make it look interesting. Yeah. You can create very complex patterns with this automat, and I'll show you a video of the performance. This is right in the middle somewhere of the performance. It's fun for me as a programmer to work with artists and to be able to play on such a large screen, like play with it actually. So when I saw the facade of the in Linz, this interests me a lot to work on such screens and stuff. But it's always a question of how do you map. So the question before was how do you actually map the brain in a kind of interesting way, so it gets interesting as a visual composition, sort of. With this, so we tried different setups. I created this live editor where I can just play with certain parameters and actually save certain parameters and see what it looks like, and created this visual composition. completely based on an algorithm, basically. So behind that, we didn't really influence the basis material. It's just from the generative algorithm. So maybe just. Yeah, it gets really flashy in the end. Just and faster and faster and faster, and then people fall down or something. Okay, so but this just to give you a little store. I don't want to buy. Just to give you a little impression of what the ZKM does. And now I want to talk about the major topic, or I will introduce 4 apps that I developed at the ZKM. So Trbovlje is interested in those mobile devices and sort of commissioned 4 works that I did. And each of the work actually shows a different, one could say, how to use these mobile devices in the context of art. For example, the first app, or there are 4 apps, I'm just going to quickly introduce them. One is the app called Sonnefield, the latest one, and it's actually a virtual exhibition space. It actually extends the exhibition space from the museum, and it's kind of a game, one could say. I'm interested in games actually where you cannot win or lose. This one is a playful exhibition space where you can experience 50 different artists, sound artists and their works. I'll give a little demo in a second. The other one is Small Fish, which is interesting in a way that how do you archive media art? This one was created back in 1999, was pretty revolutionary, one could say, back then. Looks pretty 80s, sort of, but it's kind of a playful composition, visual composition, where you can create music with visuals. And I adapted this for the iDevices, and this will last another 10 years, one could say. But the question is how to archive media art, and I had to actually, the software doesn't run on any modern computers anymore. So there's a big question how to do it. Do you use emulators? Is the media art piece actually still the same? If you use emulators, then you don't have as we had heard before, the sound of the tape recorder, the tape device, for example. So even if you use emulators, kind of you change the media art. So it's still a big question how to archive media art, and sort of this shows a little bit about the problem. The other app is kind of a virtual instrument, opens up new possibilities for composers to look at their sound material and to compose music in a different, in more like a not only linear-based or time-based manner, but rather also in a spatial manner. And the other one is an augmented reality installation by Trbovlje. So I will start with Small Fish. So as said before, Small Fish is by Kiyoshi Furukawa, Masaki Fujihata, and Wolfgang München, was developed in 1999 at the ZKM. And I want to show you. This was actually performed at the Ars Electronica back then. So when I programmed it, I actually had to look at the source code from back then and actually had to copy it the exact same way, so it would feel and sound the same way. I used a different MIDI, how would you say MIDI package, library, sorry. MIDI library. So it actually probably sounds a bit different than back then. I created a new user interface. Well, obviously I was still talking to Kiyoshi Furukawa because, and I worked together with him, so he decided, yeah, it's okay to make the user interface look like this. I have a couple of pictures from how it was marketed back then. You could buy it for 20 euros. And this is what it looked like, the packaging, and to the right you see the menu, the main menu, and at the bottom you see how the menu looks right now. So it changed a little bit, but as I was working together with Kiyoshi Furukawa, it's okay, but if in 100 years, how do you present this kind of work, you know, on modern devices? And there you can compare the left to the right. Left is the original piece and right is on the mobile devices. And even the screen resolution is different. All this kind of stuff actually makes the composition sound a bit different. The MIDI mapping doesn't work the same way because the X and Y axis is scaled a little bit. So these are questions just you can think of. Now I want to sorry, this is upside down. I know why this is the case, but I can't change this right now. Yeah, maybe this one. I just found another one. Looks pretty naive, I think. Sounds pretty strange, but yeah, why not? Yeah. So it's kind of fun, yeah, you can try out outside. The other one, which one did I want to show next? I have to look at the slide, sorry. So what means media art conversation? This is kind of what yeah. The next one is the augmented reality installation I did with Peter Weibel. It's called Life in the 20th Century, 225 Million Murders. It's from 2010. So this installation, it's interesting because we installed it in a completely fully white gallery. There was no art, you could see no art unless you had devices like this and were looking through them and saw the augmented reality, which I think is pretty interesting. Like you go in a gallery and you don't see anything unless you have the device. So there you see a few pictures from the exhibition. Now I want to show you the work and tell a little bit about it. So basically, there's a camera and you see 10 globes around you. And
Ukraine, Babi Yar massacre, 30,000 dead, El Salvador.
So each globe represents a certain decade, one decade of the last century, and shows incidents. And how many people died in incidents. So it's pretty, yeah. People try to collect like right now, try to collect the blood. But when you think, once you think of how many people actually died in wars, it's kind of not so funny. At the same time, those numbers are so abstract, you actually don't, it's not personal at all. You don't really
61 million dead.
Get those numbers. And Peter Weibel used augmented reality because he wanted to show that all these worlds actually are part of our world right now, you know. We kill people in wars, and it's quite many people die.
1947.
And this is just a documentation sort of these incidents.
30,000 dead. Malaria emergency dead. Cambodian genocide. Democratic Republic of the Congo. Second Congo War. 5,400,000 dead. 1909. In the Adana province, Anatolia, political repression of West Papuans.
So yeah, that's it. So this is a way how artists actually use those devices, for example, for augmented reality installations. Now the next one I want to show you, I have to see, is Sonar Field. Sonar Field is basically an extension of the exhibition space, of the exhibition sound art that's being shown right now. The idea was to reach a worldwide audience and to show them the pieces that are shown at the exhibition. So one could say these are modern forms of curating practices. I'll show you what it's about. So the user interface sort of looks like a game. Old people cannot play it at all. So we would need something more intuitive, actually. But it reaches more like a younger audience, I think. And this app sort of takes a bit time, so you have to really explore the space. And once you get closer to certain stars, one could say you can hear sound art by more than 50 artists. This one is by Oker Hodel, Igewehr. This actually works in 3 dimensions. So if you wear headphones, you really get the 3-dimensional experience. Sound-wise, you can walk around it, you can come close, it gets louder, go further away, it gets quieter. And it's set up here, you see where you fly. It's set up like this. You can actually, this is the top view of the exhibition space. You can explore it by just tapping and looking what those works are. You can actually curate, sort of. You can bring various different works together and sort of create your own exhibition space and then explore how this sounds, how this one work sounds in combination with another work. So to the left you hear something different than what you hear to the right. And this is something I think that the artists don't like this idea. They don't want their own sound work to be in combination with others. But I think that's just fair to be able to do that, to create your own exhibition. Why not, you know? Why not? It creates interesting new sounds, you know. It's just a different way of looking. I mean, at home you can do whatever you want, but in the space, in the museum, you cannot. And this is just fair, I think. This takes a bit of time. You have to really get into it and listen. But research you have to do at home, so I didn't add any more information. You can even, I think it's better if you don't really see by who this guy, what this is, what you hear right now, if you rather explore the space by don't even knowing, you know, just listening. So here you hear two works at the same time. Okay. And the last app I want to show you is Music Board, which was very fun to work on, and I'm still working on it because I never think it's perfect, and I think it can change so many things. I like the idea. The idea was initiated by Peter Weibel. I came up with all the rest. So the initial idea is to compose music in a spatial manner, similar to what Mozart did, or by randomness, or by. Okay, so in the 12-tone music, for example, you have 12 notes, and you play them in a certain form. But then the Schoenberg, for example, turned around those 12 notes in various ways. So mathematically wise, he created from a small set of basis material, he created new interesting compositions. So this is mathematically wise interesting to use to create variations of sound material. So basically it's a virtual instrument. The basis material are audio samples or notes, and you mix this basis material in a spatial domain, which is the board. The board actually consists of 16 fields. Each field represents one sample or note. And you have the time domain, which are various audio objects. There are 3 types of audio objects. And with this, you can create different stages that sound differently. I have to show you, so then you get an idea of what it is. So here you have various stages. I'll pick the first one that I ever did. It's kind of, no, it's not that one. It's this one. So at the bottom you see an audio object. For example, this one is an audio object that represents a loop sampler. At the top you have the 16 fields. If I place this audio object onto a field, it starts playing quantized this sample that's underneath. If I place it on a different field, it plays a different sample. So now the interesting part is where you can actually flip the board in various ways, diagonally in 6 different ways. You can even puzzle the board sort of, and hence create different neighborhood relationships. Now this makes sense if I place another object on there. And I can select 2 boards actually. And by just playing around with the basis material, I create different mixes. Okay, that's it for now, but there are other audio objects. For example, there's the loop sampler object that we just saw. There's a step sequencer object, which is this one. So it will trigger, in a certain form, it will trigger the notes that lie underneath. And now it makes sense to flip the board and just create different variations. I can actually stop certain notes. so you can play around with it. I feel it's like an instrument. The other one is the melody instrument, I would say, or like more like a synthesizer, which I created in a ball shape, and you can actually, by moving around the device, you actually trigger the notes. The ball, physically wise, moves around the board. I like this. This is really interesting. It's a bit loud, I think. It's great to use multiple iPads and actually perform together, and each person could use, for example, just one. And yeah, and I'll just a couple of others. What I find interesting is if you use new music or contemporary music kind of samples, I think it becomes a bit more interesting than using just regular hip-hop loops or whatever. So I tried with various stages, various different types of music. I actually can move with the ball, I can move the other objects. So it reacts kind of physically. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you very much for the invitation. And if you have questions, please, yeah.